heaven is heaven because of God. Okay? One thing that God does to keep heaven as heaven is He eliminated Satan from it. Okay? We're getting some keys right now. Heaven is heaven because God has given no place for anything of the enemy to exist there. Earth is earth because the enemy still has places to roam around and to do things here. That means, hear me, before the enemy occupied or took over Adam and Eve by making them fall, what did he first try to do? He took over a small place in the garden. Like a tiny snake, he existed, like he was trying to be there, sneaking around. If the enemy wants to take over anything, the first thing he's going to try to do is grab some place wherever it is given to him. Not predominantly people first. He wants location. And then whoever is in that location, he will try to influence them. So that is how he got dominion on earth, by enticing Adam and Eve. And then, of course, you know the whole story, what happened. So which means, what did God do immediately? God eliminated Adam and Eve from the garden. God also eliminated Satan from the garden. He said, I don't want this out. And he kept heaven as heaven. Now Jesus came and he said, your kingdom come. Hear me. Your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. Okay, one more time. We're going to do this. Let your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. And then he says, your will be done. Come on, people, complete me. Your will be done on earth as it is done in heaven. Okay, let's go Sunday school. Okay, one more time. How many of you know the Lord's Prayer? We grew up reading this. Can somebody tell me the Lord's Prayer? No, not the whole thing. Okay. Your kingdom come. Your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. And your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Now keep that in your mind. So what did God do to keep heaven as heaven? God in heaven eliminated Satan and eliminated his influence on anybody else and cut it and threw them out and said he's keeping heaven as heaven. Okay? Now Jesus, our Lord, came and he said he was actually giving us the key to restore heaven where we are. One more time. He was trying to give us the key to restore heaven where we are. The key was, he said, let your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. Meaning how heaven is, we have to reflect the same principle on earth. And then he said, your will be done on earth as it is done in. Let your will be done on earth as it is done in heaven. So heaven is heaven because the will of God is done. Okay, tell your neighbor, heaven is heaven because the will of God is done.
Heaven is heaven because the will of God is done.
Now tell them, your life will be heaven if the will of God is done. Then that's what he said. Now, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That means, listen, it is possible for us to make heaven on earth. And the simple key is we have to seek the will of God in it. The moment we say will of God, everybody thinks, is it like, whom should I marry? What should I eat? It becomes very microscopic, right? People will say, okay, what is the will of God? Do I need to buy this phone? Do I need to wear this shoes? Do I need to do? People become very religious when it comes to the will of God. Now, can I decode something tonight? What is the will of God for each one of us? This is going to be powerful. Okay, this is going to be powerful. Okay, for that, 1 Samuel chapter 1 verse 1. Okay, so don't lose me. I'm trying to give you something which is simple but yet very profound. So we said heaven is heaven because God has made sure He's removed the presence of Satan and his influence, right? And nothing in heaven is contaminated. And the Lord said, the will of God is done in heaven, right? That means His will is to eliminate everything that is not for Him. Oh my goodness. That means His will, if God sits on His throne, His will has flown into the throne. If He walks, my goodness, if He walks, if He lifts up His hand, the will of God is radiating all around Him. And heaven is heaven because His will is done. Are you able to see this outside of the English vocabulary dimension? You know, heaven is heaven because His will is what is heaven. Are you able to see this? Because the will of God is done, that place where the will of God is done is called heaven. Because Jesus said it, right? Your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. Your will be done on earth as it is done in heaven. Meaning, because God's will is completed, that place where He lives is called heaven. Wow. Wow. Now, Jesus is telling us to do the same thing on earth. But God has called us to be here on earth and to bring down heaven where we are. Now, whenever we talk about a topic like this, the first thing people think is mass stadiums, mass, crusades, signs, wonders. But hey, let's make it a little smaller, okay? How about us? About us first. How about our own homes, our own surroundings, our own things? Can we begin to bring down heaven from there into us, into me, into my life? Can we go after that? So when we go after that, the requirement for that is we got to begin to make sure that the will of God is done, not going to happen. It should come to a state where it is done, done, done. The will of God should be done in our finances. The will of God should be done in our marriage. The will of God should be done in our soul, in our emotions. The will of God should be done in our conversations. My goodness, the will of God should be done how we live. The will of God should be done in how we talk. The will of God should be done in how we do life. That when we come to that place, you know what's happening? We're creating the reality of heaven in where we are right now. And what is happening in that process? We're eliminating everything that looks like Satan, everything that is influence of Satan. We're actually kicking him out. We're eliminating him. We are scrubbing him out and we're saying, this is now consecrated. This lifestyle is different. Don't let the moment we use words like consecration, all these things, the first thing the religious mindset is goes into do's and don'ts. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a lifestyle which begins to say, I don't want anything that looks like the enemy or influenced by the enemy. I want to create a reality of heaven in my life.